big, beautiful law. It was a marathon to get there, but President Trump signs the big, beautiful bill today, capping off 2 very impactful weeks for the administration. Plus, unfair advantage. That's what a female cyclist is claiming after being beat by a trans athlete. This as the Supreme Court agrees to take up the controversial issue. And happy 4th of July. What better way to celebrate than to watch Joey Chestnut eat his weight in hot dogs? We'll tell you where to tune in. Those stories and more today, Friday, July 4th. I'm Caitlin Becker, and this is the New York Postcast. Just days after touring the newly appointed Alligator Alcatraz facility to house criminal migrants in Florida, President Trump is sending 200 Marines to the Sunshine State to aid in ICE raids. U.S. Northern Command made the announcement, saying in a statement that the Marines will help ICE's, quote, interior immigration enforcement mission. But they added that the Marines will not be allowed to have any contact with those in custody. And officials say further Marine deployments are expected in Louisiana and Texas. Now, the president's move to send Marines to California last month added fuel to the already violent protests there over his administration's immigration policy, and it led to a legal challenge from the state's governor, Gavin Newsom. Florida, Texas, and Louisiana, 3 states with governors from the president's own party, are likely to be more open to the presence of the Marines. Moving over to Wisconsin, where a women's USA cycling race is sparking controversy. This is after Kate Phillips, a transgender woman, crossed the finish line first. Runner-up Julie Peterson refused to take the podium in protest and says that she was unaware that the trans competitor was racing. Peterson told Fox News that had she known, she wouldn't have, quote, spent thousands of dollars in travel and time off work to come and do a race. The timing of this controversy is what is really interesting here. It comes as the Supreme Court announced that they will take up the issue of trans athletes in their next term. The highest court in the land will hear 2 cases sometime after the new term begins in October, both focused on transgender female student athletes. Lower courts in Idaho and West Virginia sided with transgender students who sued after they were banned from competing. Now, the 9 justices who historically rule along ideological lines will have the final say. However, we likely won't have that ruling until around this time next year. And now over to NAGA teaming up with MAGA. The Native American Guardians Association has joined forces with the Trump administration in trying to block a controversial initiative in New York State aimed at removing Native American mascots and imagery from public schools. The 2023 law gave schools right around now to comply, and as the deadline inched closer, the Trump administration got involved, zeroing in specifically on Massapequa High School out on Long Island, home of the Chiefs. The administration announced that the state ban was a civil rights violation. Of course, that move set off the supporters of the law who tried to force the district and those like it to abide by the deadline. Now, NAGA has joined the chorus, claiming that the ban is a First Amendment violation. The group's attorney says that they are a silent majority, claiming that Native Americans are largely in favor of using their culture in school mascots and imagery. Now, he told the Post, quote, "What they're doing is they're trying to erase history, a key piece of American culture. My clients are tired of it. It's unconstitutional, and we're not going to put up with it." Now, our big story. One last time, President Trump's one big, beautiful bill. After an exhausting week on Capitol Hill, the bill has finally been sent up Pennsylvania Avenue to the president's desk, where he's expected to sign it into law today at 5 p.m. And let me tell you, it was a process to get here. It took a full day of vote wrangling before the bill was finally moved to the floor for debate early Thursday morning. That's when House Minority Leader, Democratic Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, launched into a speech. And when I say speech, I mean it. It broke records, and it delayed a final vote by close to 9 hours. Ultimately, though, Republicans came together and got it over the finish line. And whether you think it is a beautiful bill or not, there is no denying that the bill is big. It makes President Trump's 2017 tax cuts permanent, invests $150 billion in border security, raises the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. It restricts large abortion providers from receiving Medicaid, adds a work requirement for Medicaid recipients, and there is a ton more in there. It's the biggest win so far in President Trump's term, and it comes as the administration is on an upswing. So for more on that, I'm joined now by the Post's chief Washington correspondent, Stephen Nelson. Stephen, President Trump is on a bit of a hot streak at the moment, from Iran to Supreme Court rulings, even UPenn stripping Leah Thomas of her wins. But the big, beautiful bill is kind of his crown jewel. So what role did the president actually play in getting this done?
Well, you're right. He is on quite a streak. I just finished compiling a list of things he accomplished in the past 2 weeks. And frankly, every single day, more or less, there was a major win. And that was capped off with the passage of his One Big Beautiful Bill, which contains some of his most important campaign promises. It cuts taxes on tips, overtime, Social Security benefits. It allows deductions for domestic car loan interest. It lifts the state and local tax deduction for high tax jurisdictions like New York, which he also promised during the campaign. It includes $25 billion for his Golden Dome missile defense program. It includes more immigration enforcement. It frankly includes a ton of President Trump's major priorities, in addition to extending his signature 2017 law that cut tax rates for all income brackets. So it's a major accomplishment for President Trump.
Now, we kind of just ran down there what's actually in this big bill. And politically, as I'm hearing you talk, a lot of it could be considered a gamble, especially with the midterms in the not far off future. So how do you think this will all play out at the ballot box in 2026?
Well, in terms of what's a gamble, it's less so about the big agenda items that he delivered and more so about the cuts that were used to offset those expenses. So the final bill cut funds for Medicaid and for SNAP, which is the food stamp program. And the particular details of getting in the weeds there, there is a defense that Republicans have put forward, but Democrats have had much more concerted messaging. They say that up to 12 million people could lose their insurance, that people who are hungry could lose access to food. And Republicans have a challenge ahead of them in really pushing back on that very well-honed message by Democrats.
Now, this was definitely Trump's chief legislative win, certainly so far. So what is next on the president's list?
Well, a lot of what you can accomplish by legislation, he just did accomplish. But there are a lot of agenda items that still remain. Next week is the deadline for his reciprocal tariff negotiations to end. And as people may recall, back in April, he announced sky-high reciprocal rates for many countries. Many of the Asian countries that manufacture a lot of our inexpensive consumer goods were hit especially hard. And he gave until July 9th for countries to make deals with the U.S. to avoid these rates, which could go as high as the 40% range, which is up massively from what it was before. Right now, President Trump has announced tentative deals with the UK, with China, with Vietnam. There's a roadmap for India, but for the rest of the world, there aren't deals announced. So next week is going to be a real test of what he's going to do there. And he's really brushed off the fact that there aren't that many deals. He says, well, I'll just announce new rates for these different countries and everything's going to be fine. It's going to be a challenge for him. Clearly, he wants more deals, and he has talked optimistically about more coming. So we're going to see there. Globally, there are also other challenges that he faces. He's talked about ending the Russia-Ukraine war, about bringing a ceasefire to Gaza. These are other things that he's going to continue to work on.
A lot to keep an eye on. We will definitely have you back. And you are sitting there in front of the White House right now. I really, really appreciate it. Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
July 4th, parades, fireworks, stuffing our gullets with copious amounts of hamburgers and hot dogs. Happy birthday, America. Now, if you're a professional, we are not talking 2 or 3. We're talking dozens of dogs down your gullet. The pros are set to kick off their big day in just a couple of hours, and that means the possibly triumphant Coney Island return of Joey Chestnut.
Going a year without it, it made me appreciate it. It made me work harder to get back here, and now that I'm back, I appreciate it. So much. It's a big part of my life, and oh my God, it's an amazing 4th of July celebration.
The 16-time champ of the Nathan's hot dog eating contest was forced to sit out last summer over endorsement deal drama, but he's back and he is ready to devour the competition. Now, Joey's world record is 83 hot dogs and buns in 10 minutes. Now, he did that on a Netflix special last year, but his highest count at a Nathan's event, 76 dogs and buns. That is nearly 20 more than the guy who won last year. So the world is going to be watching Joey shovel in those water-dunked buns today to see if he can best either of those marks and take home the $10,000 prize. The festivities kick off on ESPN with the women's contest first. Definitely catch that at 10:45 a.m. Then Joey and the boys take the stage at noon, which is, the perfect time for a light lunch. And finally today, if you're dying to travel to Antarctica, and I am, it sounds super cool, gotta warn you, get permission first. 19-year-old Ethan Guo didn't, and now he's getting a much longer stay than he had bargained for. Now, Ethan is a pilot. I know, at 19, it's super impressive. More impressive, he's trying to become the youngest person to fly all 7 continents and raise $1 million for cancer research in the process. Problem is, to get on that tricky 7th continent, you need special permission. Well, Ethan didn't get it, but he still went, and this is where things get kind of hairy. His flight plan suggested that he was just going to fly over a port city in Chile, but instead, he ended up on an icy island in Chilean Antarctic territory just off the coast of mainland Antarctica. The teen was apprehended after touching down and charged with filing a false flight plan. But his attorney claims it was all a misunderstanding. He said that the young pilot was experiencing trouble while he was conducting a, quote, exploratory flight, and it forced him to land. Now, obscure Antarctic islands, not exactly a popular travel destination, so now Ethan is stuck there waiting for a commercial flight to take him back to the mainland of Chile, where he will be forced to remain during a 90-day investigation. Remember, this whole thing is for charity. Now, Ethan's got a website, Ethan's Flight Against Cancer, where you can follow along. And that's it for today. Now get out of here, hit up that BBQ. You know what goes great with burgers and fireworks in America? The New York Post. We're in print and online. And don't forget, like and subscribe to the New York Postcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. You can listen to me poolside or at the beach or stuffing hot dogs in your face, any of the above. Happy 4th of July, everybody.